Well, hello everyone. My name is Jessica Coulter, and I am the CEO and founder of Ace Cookie Tutoring. Today we're going to be talking about comparing and contrasting and how to do that with correct grammar. So when we are talking about comparing and contrasting, we're talking about the comparative form versus the superlative form. Please never call it the superlative form. I had a teacher that did that all the time, drove me insane. So make sure you say superlative form. So when I talk comparative, I'm going to add a suffix, er, or maybe I'm going to use the word more. And when I want to contrast, I'm going to use the suffix est, or I'm going to use the word most. So those are the very broad overview of this entire presentation. So let's jump into some more specifics in the following slides. Before we can talk about when to use the word most or when to add the suffix er, we have to decide what we're modifying. What are we changing by adding the word most or more or adding those different suffixes? Well, we are modifying adjectives. Now, for those of you that don't know, an adjective is a part of speech, and there are 8 parts of speech. Now, an adjective modifies a noun, and a noun is a person, place, thing, or idea, and is consequently another part of speech. So if I want to say the good dog, or the tasty coffee, or I want to say the stinky whatever, those are all adjectives. So what happens is I'm going to modify those adjectives in order to compare and contrast. Now, one last thing before we move on, an adjective acts as a descriptor. So that is your most basic definition of an adjective, is a description word. Before we go into any more details, I want to let you know that I, Jessica Coulter, have a tutoring business, Ace Cookie Tutoring, and I would love to work with you or your child on English homework, or maybe writing a paper, or maybe something totally unrelated to ELA or reading, and that could be math or science or anything like that. You can schedule a lesson by going to the link here on the screen, acecookie.com/book online. Would love to work with you in person or online. So now that we know the basics of what an adjective is, as well as the overview of how to make an adjective modified to be comparative or superlative, let's go into more details. Comparative means I'm going to compare 2 things. So no more, no less. So I'm going to compare a TV and a computer monitor. I'm going to compare coffee and tea. That's all, 2 things. So like we talked about earlier, when I compare, either use the er, so the suffix at the end of a word, or I'm going to use the word more before the adjective. So what happens if you want to compare more than 2 things? Well, that's why we have the superlative form. I have to use that if I want to contrast. So if I want to contrast hot tea, coffee, as well as espresso, I need to have a way to do that. And I cannot do that by adding an ER. Instead, I'm going to use the superlative form, which allows me to compare 3 or more things by adding the est suffix or by using the word most. So comparative and superlative are similar in that I'm going to add a suffix or add a word before the adjective, but they're different in exactly what word I use or what suffix I use. And I have to remember superlative, 3 or more things, comparative, 2 things total, no more, no less. Before we do any example problems together, I just want to point out that there are some irregular adjectives. And unfortunately, that means adding the ER or using the word most is not going to be the correct way to use these particular adjectives or these modified adjectives when comparing and contrasting. So a good example would be the word good. Hopefully, if you said the word gooder to yourself, you'd realize that doesn't sound right. So if I want to compare the word good, I have to say better. And if I want to contrast or use the superlative form, I have to say best. So I've got two more examples of irregulars for you. So here we go. I have bad. So again, if I say bad-er, that doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, it's not correct. So I'm going to say worse, and I'm going to say worst. And finally, last example is many. So I'm not going to say many-er or many-est. I'm going to say more and most. So there are a lot of these irregulars. These are just three examples. So just be on the lookout. If the ER or the EST doesn't seem right and more and most doesn't seem right, then there's a good chance it's an irregular. I would love to have you as a student, either online or in person, but maybe you are wanting some more information first, or maybe you're just wanting to get some more help before committing to some one-on-one lessons. Well, in that case, join our Facebook group. It is called Students Aiming for A's, and I provide resources for all sorts of grade levels and subjects. So third grade through adults in grad school, and help and resources for anything from English to science to social studies to middle school math, and maybe even upper level classes as well. So feel free to join our group. We would love to help you and get to know you better. All right, I think you're ready for some quizzes. So I have 4 questions for you that I would love to go over and make sure you really understood the material. So here is quiz number 1. We have a sentence. Janie was blank, then Billy at making coffee. So think about what we just learned, the comparative versus the superlative, and choose which option is the best to fill in the sentence. Is it A, fast, B, faster, or C, fastest? So think about it. Do we need an ER? Do we need an EST? What would make this sentence make the most sense? And which one is grammatically correct? So go ahead and pause it if you need some time to think. Otherwise, go ahead and check your answer with mine. The correct answer is B, faster. Now, if you're wondering why, look how many people we're comparing. We're comparing Janie and Billy. So two people only. That means it's comparative, so I'm going to have an ER. Okay, how did quiz number 1 go? If it went well, awesome. If not, maybe quiz 2 will go better for you. So same thing. Here's your sentence. Fill in the blank with the appropriate choice. So I have a sentence that says, the cappuccinos at Scooters are the blank cappuccinos I've ever had. So A would be tasty, B is tastier, and C is tastiest. So think about it. How many things am I comparing or contrasting? And once you decide that, does that mean you use the ER or the EST? Or if you're not comparing or contrasting anything, you don't need to modify the adjective. So pause if you need some time. Otherwise, here is the answer. Correct answer is C, tastiest. The reason why, I'm comparing Scooters cappuccinos to all the other cappuccinos out there. So we have no idea of knowing how many that is. We have to assume it's more than 2. So we have to go superlative form with the EST. Before we look at the last 2 example questions, just wanted to check in and see if you're enjoying the tutorial and if you're learning a lot. If you are, great, that's what I like to hear. If you're looking for some more help, maybe with your grammar or maybe with a different class, there are a lot more tutorials available on our website. Just go to acecookietutoring.com/tutorial to find a full listing of all available tutorials. And you can always request a tutorial there as well. So for these next 2 quiz questions, we're not going to be filling in the blank. Instead, we're going to have an example sentence with something that's incorrect, and we need to figure out why it's incorrect. So here we go. Of all the things I could add to my coffee, cream is more important. So the question is, why is more incorrect? Is it A, it is correct, so we don't have anything to fix, or B, more is incorrect because two things are being compared, coffee and cream, or C, more than two things are being compared, so cream versus all the other coffee additives. So decide first, is more correct or incorrect? If it's incorrect, decide why it's incorrect. So take some time to think about it. Pause the video if you'd like, and when you're ready, go ahead and listen to the answer. So, the correct answer to quiz number 3 is C. More than two things are being compared. So we have coffee and we have cream in the sentence, but it says of all the things I could add to my coffee. So what are some things you could add to coffee? You've got cream, you've got sugar, you've got half and half. Some people put flavorings like caramel in there. So there are way more than two things being compared here. We've got cream and then whatever you might want to add to your coffee. So more is incorrect because of answer C. All right, it's time for quiz number 4. This is the last question we're going to do together. So this one, same thing as quiz number 3. Have a sentence with an underlined part. We have to decide if it's incorrect or not. And if it is incorrect, we have to decide why. So here's our sentence. Paige thinks hot coffee is the most stinky drink in the whole cafe. Well, why is most stinky incorrect? Is it A, that it is correct, so nothing to change? B, the correct form to compare would be stinkier, or C, the correct form to contrast would be stinkiest. So we haven't had something that has more and most yet. We've done a lot of suffixes in our example problems, but nothing with more and most. So take some time. And when you're ready, go ahead and listen to my answer and compare your answer. So quiz number 4, the correct answer would be C. The correct answer is C, stinkiest, because I have a lot of drinks to compare. I have hot coffee, and then I have the whole cafe. So just like before with the cappuccinos, there has to be more than a couple of drinks or even just one drink available in this cafe. So that means more than 3 things, which means I contrast, which means I add the EST. Now you'll notice I had the correct form in the sentence. I had most. So it's either going to be most or EST. Well, what this comes down to is A, what sounds right, and then B, what the dictionary says. So if you just don't understand when to use most or EST or when to use more or ER, the quickest way to learn this is with experience and practice and also using your dictionary. Look it up, look up stinky, and then it would have the ER and EST or maybe most and more forms in the dictionary following the definition or even just the word stinky in the dictionary. So guys, that is the last example problem. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I hope it helped, and I hope you are able to write and speak even better than you were before this presentation. Now, if you're looking for some help and you want to schedule that lesson one-on-one, face-to-face, or maybe online, go to acecookie-tutoring.com/book online so I can help you write and speak when you want to compare and contrast more efficiently and hopefully more grammatically correct. Now, no, I also have an email list, so if you'd like to get our monthly newsletter in your email so you can keep up to date with us, send an email to acecookie-tutoring@gmail.com. And finally, don't forget to join my Facebook group so I can get to know you and your student better and also provide you a lot of great free resources. So the link for that Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/A's for students. Thanks so much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.